Today on Extra Credit, we visit a cave that's over 5 million years old. Plus, we meet some unsung heroes. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Mrs. Pizzo. I'm pleased to meet all of you. Welcome to Extra Credit, where we meet interesting people, explore new ideas, and discover fun places together. Each episode will introduce you to people who use math, science, sports, and writing to make the world an interesting place. We have so many great things in store today, but first, I want you to meet our co-host.
Hi friends, my name is Emily, and I'm so happy to hang out with you today. Today's theme is Across America, so let's celebrate some amazing, important Americans. I wonder what life would be like without them. First, let's meet some legends who saved the U.S. space program.
Do you know about the woman who saved the American space program? How about the woman who helped advance the treatment of leprosy? Can you name the first American woman to receive a PhD in chemistry? Their accomplishments were nearly lost to history, but now Reaction celebrates some of the great unsung women of chemistry. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first Earth-orbiting satellite, Sputnik. When the first pings of that satellite were heard in the U.S., scientists went into overdrive. At the time, most American rockets were still exploding at the launch pad. And if they made it into air, they didn't have enough power to get into orbit. The answer to our power problem was better fuel, and that's exactly where Mary Sherman Morgan comes in. Mary worked at North American Aviation, the company tasked with finding a better rocket fuel. She was the only woman out of 900 scientists working at North American Aviation, and the only one without a college degree. Mary and her team developed a new propellant cocktail called Hydyne to power the Army's Jupiter-C rocket, which was developed by a much more famous Wernher von Braun. On January 31st, 1958, Jupiter-C, with the help of Hydyne, delivered America's first satellite to space. Dubbed Explorer 1, the satellite's successful launch was the boost the American space program needed. Without Mary, the U.S. would have continued to trail behind the USSR in the space race. Mary's work was top secret, and she kept it that way. She was also fiercely private, and her accomplishments were lost among a litany of other amazing space achievements since. When she died, her son George sat down with some of her former North American Aviation colleagues. One leaned over and said, "Your mom single-handedly saved the America's space program, and nobody knows it but a handful of old men." Decades before Mary Sherman Morgan was working at the chemist bench, Alice Ball was working on a better treatment for a very old disease, leprosy. In 1873, we learned, thanks to Dr. Gerard Hansen, that leprosy was caused by a bacteria. We knew the cause, and now we needed a better treatment. At the time, the best treatment for leprosy were injections of chamungra oil, but the results were spotty, the side effects were unpleasant, and the injections were painful. Despite all of this, scientists and physicians kept coming back to this nut oil. Something in it seemed to help patients. But what was it? That's where Alice comes in. Alice was a whiz at natural products chemistry, just the kind of work that was needed on chamungra and nut oil. By early 1916, she'd cracked it. She developed a process to isolate active constituents in chamungra nut oil. These were fatty acids in the form of ethyl esters. Injection of these esters provided a more effective relief of leprosy symptoms with considerably less pain and discomfort than shots of the straight oil. The new treatment was used for decades afterwards. Sadly, 1916 would also see the end of Alice's all-too-brief career in chemistry. On New Year's Eve, at just 24 years old, Alice died. She never got to see the impact of her work on the treatment of leprosy. And for a long time, Alice never got credit. After her death, another chemist at the college continued her project, but published without any mention of Alice or her previous work. It was decades before the extent of Alice's contributions were recognized. Almost 90 years after her death, Alice Ball was awarded the University of Hawaii Regents Medal of Distinction. Finally, I want to recognize an exceptional woman from my alma mater, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Rachel Lloyd was a woman of firsts. In 1881, she was the first woman to publish research in a major American chemistry journal. In 1887, she was the first American and the second woman in the entire world to receive a PhD in chemistry. That same year, Dr. Lloyd became the first female professor at a co-ed institution, UNL. Not everyone was thrilled to have her there. Just a year after her arrival, Dr. Lloyd survived an attempt by the chancellor to get rid of her, allegedly because of her Quaker religion. But UNL faculty supported Dr. Lloyd with a vote of confidence. Months later, the chancellor was gone and Dr. Lloyd was promoted to full professor. At UNL, Dr. Lloyd's research helped sugar beets become a major Nebraska crop and made sugar production a viable industry in the state. Today, Nebraska is sixth in the nation for sugar beet production, an industry that brings in millions to the state economy. You'd think Dr. Lloyd's life story and professional achievements would be better known, but details were nearly lost to history. Thankfully, due to a time capsule unearthed at UNL last year, we know more about Dr. Lloyd's pioneering work. We need pioneers like Mary Sherman Morgan, Alice Ball, and Dr. Rachel Lloyd. Explorers with grit and determination, though these three didn't always get the glory.
Hi helpers! Do you know that you can be a change maker? Change makers work to make the world a better place. Every person can make change by standing up for what is right, like making rules fair for everyone, keeping our earth clean, and helping people in need. Change makers can be activists, nonprofit workers, volunteers, and even kids. Some famous change makers are Martin Luther King Jr., who helped make rules fair for people of all skin colors, Jane Goodall, who helped protect chimpanzees, and Malala Yousafzai, who helped girls around the world to go to school. Kids can help make the world better too. We are never too young to be change makers.
To learn more about Meet the Helpers, visit meetthehelpers.org.
Meet the Helpers is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
What? It's that time already? I've just received word that Drs. Blotch are going to check in with us to see how we're doing with this week's writing challenge, which involves creating menus with tantalizing descriptions. Are you ready? Let's go!
Morgan. Hello, Morgan?
Drs. Blotch, is that you?
Of course it's us, Morg. We're starving. Are our menus ready yet?
Well, I can show you what I'm working on right now. So I created a menu. It's called Scoop. So it is a bunch of different types of frozen dessert recipes. So it's any ordinary recipe that you would see, but then turned into some kind of frozen dessert.
A garlic donut milkshake.
Oof. Yeah, but that's kind of what I was thinking. So I have one item on my menu so far. It is a sock lint slushie. So this slushie is made out of lint and it's cold.
Murgatroyd, that sounds like it would be delectable. But what even is a socklint slushie? Your menu's missing those details I requested.
Yes, the details. I want to smell the slushy.
You know, Egan, writers often think of the five senses in order to add more details to their story to help the reader understand their idea. When you are creating a menu item, you should describe how it smells, feels, tastes, sounds, and looks like.
Okay, so let me try this out. So for a sock lint slushie, I could write that it smells like socks that have been worn for 5 days straight. Keep in mind that I wouldn't eat this myself. This is for you, Dr. Blotch. A sock that has been worn for 5 days straight. That's what it would smell like. It would feel like soft, fuzzy icicles. It would taste probably bland, but with sharp bursts of ice. When you bite into it, it sounds like, footsteps walking through fresh snow. And what am I missing? Oh, the color. It's as gray as a day right in the middle of February when the sky is covered with clouds, like very, very gray. Does that work?
Excellent work, Megatron. We'll begin conducting a Socklin slushy while you and the rest of the 826 writers get to work on more new dishes.
Bon appetit!
Thanks, Blotch.
The subjects that I want to talk about are people who are on my street, that I grew up around. Like, those are the people who move me. They are the people who I understand. Hello, I'm James Thickpen Jr. What I do is I'm a visual artist. I am a graphic designer by trade, fine artist. I create collages, photo manipulation, and I compile it to make one photo. So each piece that I create it might have 20 pieces included, but all of them are molded together to tell one story. I grew up on the north side of Flint, 90s era. We had our flaws, but for the most part, Flint was an amazing place to grow up. My childhood was amazing, and I think a lot of that influences my work to this day. My mother actually was really a big inspiration for me in being an artist because she would encourage me. She seen a gift in me very early on. She dedicated one of the rooms to us just painting. Like, it was like one of the side rooms in the basement that my sister and I would just be able to paint with just liberty. No penalty, no punishment. It was just, we could just paint on the walls. Because of that, I just always had this sense of creativity, this sense of like freedom that I think most kids don't have. And that's how I knew I wanted to be an artist. I went to my college first, and then I later went to U of M Flint. I learned a lot of my foundation. I learned, like, all of my professors were actually working artists. Whether it be 3D sculpture, whether it be drawing, whether it be painting, whether it be 2D. These people taught me how to think prior to going to anything technical. Whenever I create, I typically start here. People artists forget to go to the handy dandy notebook, that you have to write down your ideas, your concepts, your beliefs. Everything should go in writing first. Before you ever touch anything technical, you should have everything solved. I create sketches, whether they be stick figures, whether they be actual pieces. But for my form of collage, it always ends up here. and it has to be defined here and then here. What inspires me is conversation, it is atmosphere. Atmosphere is a big thing. Like, I think that sometimes we don't understand a clean atmosphere helps us to work properly. Like, I have to make sure that my atmosphere is clean. It has energy, but it's clean. My space it smells proper, it looks proper. You know what I'm saying? If I can't work in that type of room, it won't work. Secondly is, the other thing that inspires me are other artists, My biggest influence is Kara Walker. Her pieces show gender, race, era. They show all the information I need to be effective. I think the fact that she chose to do so much black and white art without really focusing on so much of the atmosphere or where it was at, and still give me enough information to understand the piece is amazing. I want to meet her one day too, hopefully. I want to meet Kara Walker one day, I do, because she's given me so much. One of my fondest memories of DIA is taking my daughter when she was very young, like going into walking. I think some of her first steps might honestly have been in DIA. But just seeing her walk through those hallways and take her first steps, around, legacy was a big thing for me. Just frequently taking her there and allowing her to see the pieces for her to learn and for her to actually see a Warhol or to see a Kehinde Wiley. Like, it just was something that was very important to me. It still is. I still take her. We bonded, I think, there. How I would describe my art to others is simplification, which I feel like is sophistication. I think that a lot of times with the pieces I've created, I've solved problems. And in certain pieces that I've studied, they have, I call it fluff. I think that with me, I focus on a subject, and that's the only thing that you really see in my pieces is this is what I'm talking about, and that's all I need you to see. So you see a lot of white space. You see no real distraction, no color right now. Maybe later I might grow to that, but right now I'm really interested in removing everything and focusing on the focal point, focusing on the subject and making sure that they shine brighter than anything. People can teach you a lot more than you think. And I think that's what really drives my work is people, bro. Like, people have a story. I think stories intrigue me. So learning those and trying to recreate those is amazing to me. Sometimes I think that the art world can be like people where I come from can't touch it. They can't see it. They don't believe that they can be on those walls. They don't believe that they can be those subjects, right? Because we see Roman art, we see European art, but the subjects that I want to talk about are people who are on my street, that I grew up around. Like, flat out, like, those are the people who move me. They are the people who I understand that I can speak for.
Enjoyed visiting Flint, Michigan to meet our friend James and learn about his art. Think about the city you live in. Why do you think people like visiting your city? Emily, what about you?
I live in Wayland, Michigan. I think people like visiting Wayland because they enjoy spending time on the lake right outside of town.
Hi friends, my name is Callie and I'm from Sheboygan, Michigan. Some of my favorite things to do in Sheboygan during the summer are jet skiing, tubing, and paddleboarding with my friends. I also love to go skiing during the winters and eat donuts during the fall.
I declare bankruptcy! Hey everyone, my name is Chris Anderson and I'm at Mammoth Cave National Park. This park is host to the largest cave system in the entire world and is home to over 130 different species of plants and animals. It's also home to some amazing geologic formations, including stalactites, stalagmites, gypsum formations, and underground rivers. But how did this system form? Time to do a little exploring and find out. Around Mammoth Cave is made of limestone that formed around 330 million years ago. Limestone is the sedimentary rock that's easily dissolved in water, which is how this cave system formed. Here to tell me exactly how that happened is my friend Rachel Bosch, a geologist at the University of Cincinnati who researches how caves form. Hey Rachel, how you doing?
Hi Chris, I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. So, explain to me, how does water create a cave system like the one we're in?
Well, it takes several steps. The water is all coming from hundreds of feet up above us when it rains on the surface. And as that water comes down through the soil, it's picking up little bits of carbon dioxide. There are animals in the soil. The animals are breathing in oxygen, they're breathing out carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide combines with the water and makes a weak acid called carbonic acid.
Carbonic acid, okay.
And as the water brings the carbonic acid down through the soil and down into the rocks, it hits the limestone and it reacts with the limestone. It starts dissolving away the limestone, kind of eating away at it. And eventually, over time, it erodes out larger and larger passages. And it can start bringing in little rocks, and those can bang into the sides and make the passages even bigger. Until over thousands and millions of years, you can get passages as big as the ones that we're in today.
So how long has Mammoth Cave been forming?
Mammoth Cave has been forming for about the past 5 million years.
5 million, so it took 5 million years of water breaking this down to create a cave system this big.
It did. So the passage we're in right now can show us ways in which it's changing. There's water flowing in through the ceiling right over here, and you can see that that little hole there, it gets larger and larger over time as that water just cuts its way back, almost like a waterfall on the surface.
It's just like, yeah, so over time that's going to move further and further back. Mm-hmm. Boy, if you sit here long enough, it really makes you want to pee. Now, you said there, as we go down to lower levels, there's water flowing through the cave system as we speak, right?
Yes.
Can we go down there and take a look?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's do it. All right, so Rachel, where are we now?
So we are at the shores of River Styx.
The River Styx.
The River Styx. It sounds ominous, doesn't
it? Does.
So we're in the very lowest level of Mammoth Cave, where new passages are forming right now. So this is the very youngest area of the cave.
So this river here is carving out new parts of the cave as we speak?
Yes.
That is crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's just like any other river. It's just hundreds of feet underground.
Right. It's just, it starts on the surface. It's a river flowing along the surface. It goes into a sinkhole, and then you have the river underground. So it's just like a surface river, but it's got a roof.
What is that landscape called, and how does that work?
So it's called a karst landscape.
Okay.
And The one big difference you can see between karst and other humid area landscapes is that in other landscapes, in the wet eastern United States, you'll have water flowing in a lot of streams on the surface, feeding the main river. So you have the main river, and you have its tributaries, and you can see all these tributaries on the surface, streams and waterfalls. If you come to then a karst region, like central Kentucky, like most of Tennessee, a lot of West Virginia, these areas don't have those surface streams.
So how does physical weathering, like in this river, help form a cave like this?
So the physical weathering part would be the fact that all of these materials, in here we can see there's a bunch of, this is a pretty big piece of gravel.
Yeah.
So
it's got a lot of sand too, or
and
like clay.
There's got a lot of sand, silt, clays,
Yeah.
all these different grain sizes. These are not dissolving in the cave. This is traveled from outside of the cave.
Oh, this came from outside the cave?
That came from outside the cave. That's made out of sandstone.
Okay. Oh, so this wasn't limestone like it is here. It was transported here by the river.
Yes.
Oh, Alan, I can imagine if like this is tumbling on the bottom of the river, it's going to knock some other things loose.
Exactly.
Interesting. So as millions of years, over a really long time, all these little rocks and pebbles like this help break down other pieces of rock within the cave because the river is carrying them and it's kind of using it to kind of bump and shape and, carve out a whole cave system.
Right, almost like a sandblaster.
Chemical weathering is when air, water, or living things break down rock through a chemical reaction. Here at Mammoth Cave, most of the chemical weathering is done by water. That's because when it rains, the water absorbs some carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and the soil, making it slightly acidic. When that rainwater seeps into the ground and comes in contact with the rock, it reacts with it, breaking it down. You can reproduce this reaction at home by placing a few drops of acid like lemon juice or vinegar on some limestone. That fizzing you see is gas being given off by the acid as it reacts with the limestone. Geologists use this test in the field to test the type of rock they're studying. If the rock fizzes, it's limestone. Chemical weathering is a big part of how caves like this form. Slightly acidic water reacting with the rock, breaking it down, and forming a cave. Chemical and physical weathering are major factors in how caves are formed and the changing surface of our Earth. Next time you're at Mammoth Cave National Park, or next time you're just outside, see if you can identify some examples of physical and chemical weathering. Before we go, I want to thank Rachel Bosch for being our guide through this cave system and explaining how it formed. I also want to thank Mammoth Cave National Park for allowing us to tell their story to kids and adults everywhere. And lastly, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Science Around Cincy. Hey everyone, my name is Chris Anderson, and I'm at
Actually, back to one I zoomed out too early.
Placing a few drops of
Hey mathematicians, are you ready for our daily math challenge with Diane? Today, we'll use our minds to identify the traits of different triangles. I wonder how many different types of triangles there are.
Hey everyone, Diane here. Today, we are going to be using our wonderful minds to think about how we can identify different characteristics of different triangles. Before we jump into it, let's talk about what we know about triangles. Share that with your people, and me too. Yes, it is three-sided, and it's a closed figure. Oh, that was another good one. There are different types, like equilateral. So here are some different triangles. Right now, let's take a little bit of time to look at these triangles. What do you see they have in common? And do you notice some things that are very different? So you notice that some of the triangles have different side lengths. Yes, I see that with this one here. I heard someone else say something about the corners of some triangles. We call these angles, and yes, some have very different size angles. We have 3 ways to talk about angles for today. There are more, but we'll save them for another time. A right angle is 90 degrees, like the corner of a paper or an L. We then have an acute angle that's smaller than 90 degrees, like when a cabinet is mostly closed or I'm using my hand as a mount. And then there are obtuse angles that are larger than 90 degrees, like when a cabinet is all the way open and I'm looking for my favorite cereal for a snack, or when my arm is almost all the way straight. We'll come back to these triangles, but what I want you to do now is hop up and find a spot where you have some space. Let's do some math yoga. That's right, we're going to be making triangles with our bodies. You can use your arms, your legs, the floor, a wall, whatever to help you. We're going to start with making any triangle that you want. I'm going to make one using my lower body as one side, my upper body as the second side, and the floor as my third side. So go ahead and get into your poses, and we're gonna take some deep breaths. Be the triangle. You are the triangle. All right. Do my sides look pretty close to being equal? They look pretty close to me. Y'all are doing a great job with your poses. When the sides are all equal, that is called an equilateral triangle. Equa for equal and lateral for sides. If we look at the angles of this triangle, what do you notice? Yeah, I heard several different ideas. One person said there are 3 of them. Someone else said it looks like all of them are less than 90 degrees. Does anyone remember what those are called? Say it with me, everybody. Acute angles. Let's try another triangle pose. I want to make a triangle with 3 different side lengths. Let's try that out. You can get creative with this. Maybe have someone with you help you out. Right, so I'm going to stretch out my legs and I'm going to put my arms like I'm trying to touch my ankle. You can see deep breaths. Right here is my triangle. Hold it just for a little bit. All right. Some people made really big differences when they were making their triangles. Other people made some really small differences, like bending their elbow or knee to change the length of the sides. So as you can see from the example that I had, I used my stretched out leg, arm, and body to make 3 different side lengths. This is called a scalene triangle. All 3 sides are different lengths, and it could look like this. Do you notice anything about the angles of this triangle? Yeah, that's true. Someone said it looks like one is obtuse and the other 2 are acute. That's what I noticed too. We could also call this triangle an obtuse triangle because of that one obtuse angle. So now, hop up if you're sitting for one final triangle pose. This time, I want you to try and make a triangle with 2 sides that are congruent. I'm going to try it just using one leg, but feel free to get creative again. All right, here we go. All right, woo. If you lose your balance, that's totally fine. We make a triangle right here. All right, deep breath. Everybody see the triangle? All right. Everybody got their pose? I think you're doing a great job. Do you think this one was more challenging than the others? When a triangle has exactly 2 equal sides, it's called an isosceles triangle. For this one, I also have a right angle, so it could be called a right triangle too. From our triangles up here, do you see any that have a right triangle too? Yeah, this is the one that caught my eye first. Maybe it's the same one for you. Now that we've gotten our examples for all of our triangles, let's look at the rest of these. It's neat how, even though all of these are all the same triangles, they don't exactly look the same. And look at that. From our yoga poses, we have sorted our triangles into groups based on their side lengths. We talked some about the angle measurements, and you'll also get a chance to practice that with some other activities. Today, we focused on equilateral triangles with 3 equal sides, isosceles triangles with 2 equal sides, and scalene triangles with no equal sides. We also got to see some right angles, acute, and obtuse angles. Thanks for the yoga class. Keep practicing those triangle poses. Bye, y'all.
Welcome to InPACT at Home, where we practice interrupting prolonged sitting with activity. I'm Claire and this is Kemper, and we're here to help you get moving for the next 8 minutes. You'll be surprised at what these moments of movement can do for you and the rest of your family so you can stay active and healthy at home. So go ahead and get up and let's start moving. For this movement activity, we're going to be focusing on bone health and exercise. Exercise can help build and maintain strong bones. So let's go ahead and just start it up with some jumping jacks. When talking about bone health, we have repetitive movements that can really help to keep those bones nice and strong. Not only do we want to keep our bones strong and getting stronger, but maintaining bone health becomes particularly harder as we get older. So the more repetitive movement that you can do now is gonna be amazing. All right, from here, we're gonna keep that impact going by going into some lateral hops. I'm gonna show you. So, bring those feet together. We're gonna go back and forth. Good. Get ready to join me.
Okay.
We're gonna be here. Now, what you can do, if popping back and forth is a little bit funky for your ankles, you can just go straight up and down in your regular ankle hop. Perfect. Stay with Kemper for those ankle hops. Join me if you want to go a little bit more challenging. Good. We're going to be going for a long time today, getting that repetitive movement. So stick with us, get your breath. Here we go. We got about 10 more seconds. Nice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake it out.
Whoa.
Oh, I know. As well as repetitive movements, we also have resistance-based movements that are gonna be really good to maintain bone health. So if you have water bottles, soup cans, those are great substitutions for bands or dumbbells. In this next group of exercises, stick with us to get some up-downs, as well as some modified up-downs. And then Kemper is gonna be doing some resistance-based training using those water bottles, and I'm gonna be doing fast punches left and right. So, get ready. We've got those up-downs. Stick with me for a challenge. Go with Kemp if you wanna warm up with it a little bit. I'm gonna bring the hands to the floor, kicking those feet back in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hands down, kick those feet out, pull up, stands fully. Yeah, good. I see you. Yes, you're getting the hang of it now. Good, hands come right down, pop the feet out, pull right in, stand through the feet. Well done. Let's got 2 more. Yes, 1 more. All right, quick switch. I'm gonna be doing those fast left, right. If you have something that can add weight to your bones, we're gonna be going with Kemper, going overhead press. Nice. All right, so my arms are starting to feel a little bit of a burn. If you are here and those water bottles are starting to feel really heavy, you can follow Kemper and go alternating, one at a time. All right, go for about 5 more seconds. We're gonna take up downs one more time. Yes, you can. In 3, 2, 1. Fast switch, let's go. Feet back, pull up, stand. Good job, everybody. Whew, I knew you can. This is gonna keep your heart rate up. All of these different planes of movement, these different directions that I am challenging my body is so good for your bones. Stand through the feet, push, let's get 2 more. You got this, Kemper. Last one, and fast left, right into it, grab those weights, grab those dumbbells, bands, water bottles, cans. You are doing fantastic. Good. I'm gonna add one last challenge here with this exercise. I'm gonna bring those hips down.
Whoa.
All right, good, good, good. Keep those arms going. 5 and 4, 3, 2, 1, and shake it out. Good job, Kemper. You're getting strong. All right, last thing we're gonna do is from the ground or from a seated position. To follow up with different angles or planes of movement, we're now gonna work our obliques, which are on the side of our torsos. They're also incorporated with a lot of core movements. So I'm gonna be doing that more challenging movement, straight leg, oblique crunch. This is where you're really gonna focus in on bending right at the spine, right where the hips and rib cage meet. Perfect, so I'll show you a couple more times. Pushing that elbow up to meet the knee. I'm gonna come back down. Beautiful. Kemper is activating those exact same muscles from a seated position. He's pushing his right elbow to his opposite knee and really squeezing the ribs into the hips. Amazing. Hopefully you've been joining us for here. Let's get a couple more reps. Nice and controlled, use your breath. Awesome, I know it's hard. If you're with me on the floor, you can bend those knees. Good. Feel it right here. Let's go 2 more. Nice, last one. Awesome. Go ahead and add a little switch. Disco move on the floor. We'll do that again, don't worry. All right, hinge at the hips. Push elbow to knee, and then back down, good. You look amazing, I know this is hard. Challenging yourself each and every day is so important for your mental health as well as your bone health. Good, exhale hard, breathe, control. No matter if you're on that couch or with me, nicely done. Good, reach, push in. All right, Kemper, we're gonna finish in a plank position.
Oh boy.
You're gonna put your elbows on the couch. I'm gonna put my elbows on the floor.
Okay.
We've got 2 more reps here. Last one, and big switch. 5 seconds to get into it. 3, 2, 1. You're up on your toes, you're pushing through the elbows. Watch that tailbone, squeeze the tailbone underneath of you. Like you're zipping up a jacket from your hips all the way up to your neck. Push down through the elbows, lifting through the core. Relax your shoulders, relax your neck. You're gonna be feeling this right where you wear a belt. Let's go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Great job, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's movement break. InPACT at Home is a chance to apply the skills you may have learned in your PE class to improve your health. To learn more about the health benefits associated with daily movement, visit impactathome.umich.edu. Don't forget to fill out your daily log. We'll see you again during your next workout.
My work is very specific to this location and to this moment in time. My name is Kayla Powers. I'm a weaver and natural dyer, and I consider myself a place-based artist. I live over on the east side of Detroit, and all of the materials that I work with, all of the plants that I work with, are foraged from or grown in Detroit. I've known for a long time that I want to be an artist, and I think I've always been creative and curious about the natural world. And it's only in the last few years that I've started to identify as an artist. Doing textile work, I've always sort of seen myself as a craft person, and I've spent about 10 years now really honing my skills. But recently I've started to want to communicate more through my work, and I find that I have something unique to add to the conversation. I went to Western Michigan University and got a degree in art history. But when I graduated, I wasn't quite ready to jump into the workforce, so I got a job on an organic farm. And so I was learning about growing flowers and vegetables, and at the same time I was taking a course at the Kalamazoo Institute of Art. So I was learning about weaving and learning about plants at the same time, which proved to be a very formative educational experience for me. When I first started making art, I was making utilitarian goods, so rugs and blankets and things that would get used indoors. And now I make art because I have something that I feel is really special, which is the natural world that exists here in the urban environment. And I find that it's a great way to communicate and to share those ideas and those feelings. I make art as a way to respond to what is happening in the world around us, as an expression of love for the city. It's always very minimal in composition. I really like to let the colors speak for themselves, and to really represent the season and to represent place. I describe my art as naturally dyed, hand-woven textiles, and because I'm working with locally grown and locally foraged plants, I also call it place-based art. So that just means that my work is very specific to this location and to this moment in time. So I want to tell you about a project that I've been working on for the past year called Local Color, Natural Dyes of Detroit. And it's actually an installation that's up on the DeQuinder Cut right now. It'll be up for another 5 days. And the project is a series of naturally dyed hand-woven tapestries. The wool that I used to weave the tapestries was all dyed with local plants, so either locally grown or locally foraged dye plants. And this really was born out of a curiosity of what the local palette is here in Detroit. I have this idea that every different region and even microclimates have their own color palette just based on the plants that grow. And so this was really a chance to show off the natural world that we are surrounded by and that we are a part of here in Detroit. My favorite art to see at the DIA is the Indigenous American art. I feel so inspired by the work which would have been place-based art also, because they would have been working with materials that they had at hand. And this is something that I have sort of artificially put this restriction on my own work, the limitations of a seasonal and local palette, because we have access to everything now, but back then it would have been not a choice to have that restriction. And I just think it's so impressive what people were able to make. I love to see the symbols that were used and the stories that are communicated through craft.
So I do most of my weaving on one of these floor looms, and the project I'm working on right now is to weave a grid structure out of all of my natural naturally dyed wool. And so I use this linen warp, which is a really nice, strong 8x wet spun linen. And I use this wool that comes from a mill over on the west side of the state. And these are all pieces that have been dyed with plants from Detroit in just the last month or so. So I'll just do a little demonstration here. All of my work pretty much happens in plain weave, so that just means that the overall structure is just over, under, over, under. So it's nothing too complicated, and I find that that way the colors can really speak for themselves.
I make art as a way to respond to what is happening in the world around us, as an expression of love for the city. I make art because it makes me feel human, to use my hands and to create something, in partnership with the natural world. I make art because I love beautiful things and I love to contribute beautiful things to the world. There's so many reasons.
The Indiana Dunes have been a national lakeshore since 1966. But they only became a national park on February 15, 2019. So what's in a name? A national park doesn't receive more funding than a national lakeshore, but it's seen as a major upgrade.
We didn't really realize how important it was going to be to the public. The higher profile, the number of people who are coming here. Literally the day that the change happened, we started getting emails and phone calls from all over the country saying, "We hear you're a national park, we're going to come visit."
While there are 419 sites in the national park system, it's the 61 national parks that get the attention and the visitors, like this couple from South Carolina.
We probably would not have come to the Indiana Dunes National Park if it wasn't a national park.
I would just say it's a bucket list type thing.
The park stretches from east of Gary to Michigan City, Indiana. And within that stretch, there's the Port of Indiana, bustling with industry, Indiana Dunes State Park, and several beach towns. At 15,000 acres, it's less than 1% of the size of Yellowstone, but it's 15 miles of beach, 50 miles of trails, and unparalleled views are all within a 2-hour drive of millions of potential visitors.
A lot of folks come just for the beach and they have no idea what's back here.
Further from the lakefront, national park status protects dunes, bogs, and wooded areas, but there are still threats. A growing number of researchers, park staff, and volunteers are working to better understand the threats and how to lessen them. The park has a citizen science program where anyone can volunteer to help with certain ongoing research programs. These volunteers are collecting dragonfly larvae to test for changes in mercury levels.
It's a wonderful opportunity for people to get involved with scientific research, and it's great for the researchers too, because when they use the help of volunteers, they can collect a lot more data than they would normally be able to collect if they were doing it on their own or just with a couple graduate students.
Water levels are another concern because they have changed dramatically. The Army Corps of Engineers says Lake Michigan rose 6 inches from May to June, to an inch short of the historic June high. And high water causes erosion. Erosion damaged one of the park's 8 beaches. The National Parks Conservation Association says erosion claimed 30 feet of beach and parts of access trails at Portage Lakefront and Riverwalk on the park's east side. And on the east end, at the dune known as Mount Baldy, visitors discover how damage to the 123-foot attraction was created by nature and humans alike.
Feel the wind. What do you think that wind's doing?
Visitors running down the dune destroyed plants that held the sand in place. With the plants gone, the dune began to move and covered up oak trees.
From the inside out, they decompose, and now they have hollow chambers in them.
The underground hollows make the dune unstable, and public access is restricted on Mount Baldy. The park is now trying to preserve and even restore the dune by planting native vegetation like marram grass to stabilize the sand.
Our primary mission in the Park Service, and of course here at Indiana Dunes, is resource preservation, so that these resources are here for future generations. We want the public to come in, but if we don't take care of this, there's nothing for them to see.
Parkgoers that are often awestruck at the sight of the dunes.
I think that the response to first seeing the dunes is, whoa, because they're huge. And you're like, that's not what it should be like. This shouldn't be both the desert and the ocean, but it's not the ocean or the desert, so killing it.
Well, friends, our time has come to an end. See you next time.
On the next episode of Extra Credit, make a kite with supplies around your house. Learn about teamwork from the Minecraft team. Plus, a sneak peek at what it's like to work for the NBA. Check out Extra Credit on the Michigan Learning Channel.
This program is made possible in part by Michigan Department of Education, the State of Michigan, and by viewers like you.